We are live, and I say we because I cautiously have a guest on standby. Now, this is a first for the Nooner with Dave LaMont, and good Monday afternoon for those of you on the East Coast, and good morning to everyone else. And I do want to thank, first off, the guys at the Sports Objective podcast who put together the lovely titles you see on the screen, the subscribe to YouTube notice, the beautiful Nooner with Dave LaMont, and my Twitter handle there. So I really want to thank those guys. Bubba, and particularly, went out of his way to help the pathetic one. That would be me. I have said we want a guest, and my first guest is, and we're looking for her. She's here. And I don't see her on the screen, but I'm going to try to send another invitation. Well, I can't really do that, can I? Yeah, I guess I can. I'll do that right now, as a matter of fact. And just to make sure that we get this right before I get into the topics, because this is scary new territory for me, and we'll see if that works, because I've been told that this should be right there, and I practiced. So I'm going to go do a little searching here and make sure that everything's going to be okay. But I do want to have Kelly Craig on the show. As promised, I wanted her to be my first guest. But let's get to the story that's dominating things at the moment, and that is what's going on with the virus in Major League Baseball. And I just checked before I went on the air. There's no new news from about the last 45 minutes. If you don't know, let's get you caught up really quickly. The Miami Marlins, played yesterday with 4 players held out of the lineup, including a starting pitcher, and they didn't really say why. Well, it turns out they were COVID-19 positive. Then it comes out this morning, 8 more players and 2 coaches. So that adds up to 14 people in their traveling party, and the whole team is still in Philadelphia. There will not be a game down at Marlins Stadium today or tonight against the Orioles. And actually, the funny thing is, I believe the Orioles were here ahead of them, ahead of the Marlins. Additionally, the Phillies-Yankees game has been postponed. They have not said canceled, postponed. No news on the rest of the MLB schedule, the Major League Baseball schedule. Not the MLB. Can we stop with that, by the way? It's not like the NFL or the NBA or the NHL. It's MLB, Major League Baseball. Not the MLB. It's the MLB schedule. And that means there's 10 more games still slated to be played, one of them in about 3.5 hours. So that's all I have for you regarding that. This is obviously a massive blow. It's not the most surprising thing in the world that players were going to test positive, but so many in one team that I have questions. So I wish I had better answers for you. I wish I had better news for you. For the fate of the rest of the season, I just don't know. There's going to be a lot of people screaming and yelling to cancel the rest of the season, and the commissioner has the power to do that. And that might be the best way to go, because it seems hard to imagine that the Marlins are going to be the only team that's going to have a breakout like this. It's not realistic. We were hoping 2-3 scattered players from a 30-man roster, we'll get through this, it's going to be just fine. That didn't happen. So now, what do? We wait, see if there's any more games canceled, and we wait to see if they cancel the season. You know what would have helped? A bubble. But the players didn't want to do that. And pardon me, I'm just checking here to see what's going on with Kelly also, because this could be a technical snafu. She sent me a picture of her screen. Yeah, there's got to be a way for me to invite her in here, and I wish I could. So I'm going to be dealing with that, as well as I've invited her already a couple of times. So Kelly, maybe the best thing you can do, if you're watching, would be to try the new invitation I sent and see if you can get in, because we tested this out. My wife and I did a few nights ago, so it did work. So fire off an invitation. Ideally, I should have this set up to where I can hear from her. So I really hope we can work this out. If not, I'm sure I have enough to talk about. I mentioned a bubble. There was talk of a Major League Baseball bubble in Arizona. Now, Arizona's also got their fair share of COVID cases. They've become a bit of a hotspot, although not as bad as here. But would you like to take a guess at how many Major League Soccer positive tests we've had since they entered their bubble and began their tournament in Orlando? That's how many. The NBA has had a few, but not enough to cause a problem. But in a bubble, MLS is perfect. That means every player is taking it seriously. Every player. Maybe they're just incredibly fortunate, but that means every protocol laid out by that league has worked. The NBA is days away from starting, days away. And they've had a sprinkling of positive tests. They've had players leave the bubble, like Zion Williamson, who have come back. They've had, most famously now, Lou Williams, who left the bubble, a Clippers guard, who left the bubble to go to a family funeral, stopped at a strip club in Atlanta to buy chicken wings that are named after him and broke the quarantine. So he's in for 10 days of quarantine. Now, Lou, I would love to have chicken wings named after me someplace. That'd be great. It wouldn't be lemon pepper, though. It would have to be some kind of honey barbecue. Actually, speaking of Kelly Craig, who's from Baltimore, there's a place near the stadium that had these honey barbecue Old Bay, like combination wings, best I've ever had, other than Anthony's coal-fired pizza over here, and those are made completely differently. I mean, just killer. Anyway, I'd love to have my own wings named after me, but I'm not breaking a bubble to go to a club for wings. He claims there weren't other people at the club, that it was just a restaurant visit. Hell, I don't know. Whether there were 7,000 dancers there or zero. The point is, for an order of chicken wings or two, he cost himself 10 days. Kristaps Porzingis of the Dallas Mavericks forgot to take a test. By all accounts, that's what happened. He forgot. So he had to sit out a scrimmage. Now, he's fortunate because he didn't violate any of the bubble rules. He's not going to miss any of the games that the Mavericks are due to play. And if you know anything about the team, he has become a critical player for them. So he screwed up. His coach says he screwed up. He is apparently contrite, but he messed up. Guys have got to concentrate as if they have never concentrated before, because the immediate future of their sport, not the long-term future, because we'll get through this eventually, and we'll have NBA, NHL, NFL, MLB as we used to. But right now, you have to concentrate as much on being in that bubble and following every rule as you've ever had to before. So I don't know what else to say about it. I really don't. I don't know. It's not that – I don't find it even funny. Major League Baseball and their players screwed up by not organizing a bubble of maybe 2 or 3 cities if possible. I realize it's difficult to do all that baseball in one location. Because at Disney, for example, a Wide World of Sports, they have multiple courts. I've been there for AAU events when my boys were playing AAU. All right. And I know how many courts they can set up there. And they can set up NBA regulation courts in 2 or 3 or 4 different places. So you can do that there. Not a whole lot of places with multiple major league regulation fields. It can't be like one of these little league places that have 4 fields and they're all different sizes, and it's not adequate. And the Toronto Blue Jays turned down my invitation to play a couple miles from my house, and I think they wound up back in Buffalo, right? Yeah, they did. After being turned down, after being told they can't play in Canada, after being told they can't play in Pittsburgh. Now they may be told they can't play at all. So we're at a point now where sometime later today, we may find out that there'll be no Major League Baseball at all. Other people are now starting to make the correlation between Major League Baseball and college football and the NFL. And football is going to involve travel. There is no bubble. I don't know if college football officials are looking at this news from the conferences and the networks and going, well, that does it, we're done. I don't know if they're ready to do that yet. But you're not, you can bubble your players in football, but only at home. So you're still going to have to travel to play games. But yeah, you can bubble people. Of course you can. They kind of do that anyway, right? With training camps and separate workout facilities and all this other stuff. The jock dorm thing is kind of a dinosaur. You don't really see jock dorms anymore like you used to. I can just point to myself. Every one of my boys lives off campus or lived off campus after 1 year. So it's those days are long gone. It was kind of a dumb idea anyway. So it's only so much isolation you can do. Am I ready to give up on college football? I'm getting closer to it. Yes, I admit. And that's not good for a lot of reasons. Millions of them in the case of these schools. Literally millions. So I don't know what else to tell you. It's been nothing but bad news lately, almost nothing but just terrible, terrible, terrible news regarding this virus. In the state of Florida, you know what? You know what makes us pop champagne corks around here? When we get below 10,000 cases in a day, which we did, I believe today, it was around 8,700. Ooh, jazz hands, baby. We're hot. So while people are still, with the argument regarding masks and all the other stuff, I don't know what to tell you, kids. I don't know what to tell you, wacky, wacky kids. But that's where we are. Baseball in deep trouble. The NBA is going to be the next great experiment because we are days away from starting the season. I don't even feel like getting into detailed breakdowns of certain teams, like the Heat, for example. Possible contender if they can keep, and they've got everybody, right? They need, Adebayo just showed up a few days ago. They played adequately in their scrimmages. But I'm having a hard time motivating myself to go into detailed breakdowns about, whether they're going to shoot well, whether, they took 44 threes in a game. Is that too many? Are they depending too much on the law? I just don't have that. University of Miami just named Eric King their starting quarterback for the upcoming college football season. Should I be excited about that? It was going to happen anyway. It was pretty obvious. So, do we get excited only to be let down? That's one of the worst things you can do to me. You want to see me get mad on a golf course? Have me think I've hit a good shot, and then you find out it's not a good shot. Now you have to deal with the consequences of the mess you just left there. That'll get to you. And it's kind of the same thing. You think something great's going to happen. We've gone through this up and down and up and cycle. This is going to be wonderful. We're going to play. God. And I wonder if that's going to happen with the pros. I wonder if that's going to happen with college. I just don't know. I also, to be fair to Kelly, don't know where she is. And I'm blaming her one bit. Because when you have an incompetent, I'm going to try to set this up to play a sound when guests enter. The trick with this deal is, to be fair to her, is I sent her a link and she sent me a picture of her screen just before I went on at 12 o'clock. And I thought we were going to be able to do this. We still may be able to salvage this. I know she's working hard on her end, and I am very, very sorry that if this doesn't work, it's nobody's fault. It could very easily be my fault. So I'm going to have to work with testing and work at this again. If we can't hook this whole guest thing up, that one's on me, not on her. And we will absolutely go after it again on Friday when I do the longer version of the show again. So, Kelly, if you're still trying, keep trying. Let me know what's going on if you'd like. And certainly, hopefully, I gave you the right information. It is easily possible that I mucked this up. I know that when other folks have done this through StreamYard, they have a little preview area where the person shows up, And then you can see that if you're the host, and you just bring him right in. So my apologies, because I really, really wanted Kelly here. And I'll tell you why, and in case she's listening. When I was looking for something to do this summer, obviously an uncertain fall ahead of all, even uncertain winter possibly, I thought this might be fun. And it has been a lot of fun. And I put it out there on Facebook for people to ask, what do you think? Would you have any interest at all? And many of you responded positively. And Kelly was really very positive about the whole thing. And her opinion, with somebody with her background and her talents and her success, telling you you ought to go for it, meant a lot to me. So that's why I wanted her on first. Not just because she's got a lot to offer and a lot of great stories to tell, and I love to hear her opinions. And we were going to get into a few interesting things today, but just because that support meant a great deal to me. Not that it didn't, because it does. But a real pro like Kelly works very, very well. So I've tried share screens. I've tried all sorts of things, and I am concerned that I am making this more difficult than it needs to be. So what will happen is at the end of all of this, StreamYard will ask, did you like the broadcast? And I will send them a little note that I tried to bring a guest in. We had tested it out before, and it didn't come through. So that's where we are on that. And again, my apologies for all of that. I was going to ask Kelly about how to fix the English language, because I'm sure she has a few things on her mind as well. But the MLB is certainly one of them. It is not the Major League Baseball. Okay? And I've seen a billion uses of that on Twitter today, give or take a few 100 million. Another one that broadcasters do, sports broadcasters, and it is insanely redundant. And it only seems to happen to one conference that gets on television, and that's the MAC. Now, as you know, I have done MACtion games, Mid-American Conference, your Western Michigans, your Toledos, your Northern Illinois, and so forth. Akron, you get the idea. I've been doing and I had a son play in that conference. The other one was recruited by a couple of schools in that conference before Drew wound up in the Mountain West and Wyoming. MAC conference, every broadcaster who says MAC conference should be fined $5, $10, $15 every time he or she says it. Every time. Because do you ever say SEC conference? I think not. It's always the SEC. Do you call the Atlantic Coast Conference? The ACC conference? I hope you don't. Because that C at the end, the second C in ACC stands for conference. So if I can save the sports English language today, it's going to be getting rid of the ridiculous redundancy of MAC conference, the MLB. Yes, it's the NFL. Yes, it's the NBA. I don't call it the MLS, and I think it's because the last word is the name of the sport. You don't say the soccer. I'm going to go tune into the soccer. I'm going to go tune into the baseball. So if it was NLF, National League Football, I don't think I would say, well, I would say the NLF. But there's something about MLB, it just doesn't make sense. So let's work on that together. When you tweet out your complaints about baseball or you put something on Facebook, let's get rid of the MLB. It's just MLB. Let's not say I'm watching a MAC conference game, because you wouldn't say it about the others, right? Right. You can say Big 12 conference, the Pac-10, that's okay. But you don't say Pac-10 conference. You don't say Big 12 conference. Therefore, you shouldn't say MAC conference. So there's a little sports language lesson for you. Here's another one. This is going to sound a little snooty, and I'm sorry. I've never drank nor ordered an espresso before. I've also, and especially in a coffee shop. Especially? and espresso. Okay? That's all it is. I especially enjoy an espresso when I'm tired. And I seem like I'm always tired. Therefore, I have espressos. Actually, not all that frequently. But, I that's another one. Insane, a little goofy, but especially an espresso. Espresso, gotta go. Must be gone from the English language. We can all do better, right? We can improve. So that's another one. And that's not any kind of a dialect or anything like that. It's just, now I think there might be a place or two that are called espresso, and then that's okay. If it's the name of a place, I'm sure there's got to be a coffee shop named Espresso somewhere. So let's call that a day on saving the English language. Again, the big story, no Marlins-Orioles game tonight. We don't have a Phillies-Yankees game, but I have not heard anything about Major League Baseball fixing the rest of their schedule tonight. Now, as far as we know, no one else is dealing with this issue. It is the Marlins and the Phillies. The Yankees were due to come in. We haven't heard anything about the Yankees, and the Orioles got through their series with the Red Sox, not only surprisingly winning 2 games, but without any COVID-19. So what do you do then? Do you just base a cancellation of the season on the problems of one or maybe 2 teams and go, you know what? Let's just call it. Or do you try to play through this as you do when you get stuck with that bad golf shot you weren't expecting? Do you play through? Do you pick your ball up and go to the next hole? In this case, the next season. It is not as easy a decision as you might think it is. Some of you are already going, no, man, I'm out. I don't want any virus, out. Cancel it all. We're moving on. I wouldn't mind if we played a little more baseball. Now, this screws the Marlins enormously, and that's the bad part about all of this. And you're going to say, well, what about competitive balance? And that's perfectly fair. Because if the Marlins are quarantining a bunch of people in Philadelphia, are they going to have enough people to field a competent Major League Baseball team to play games? And if they're just going to get rolled over because they got a bunch of 19-year-olds out there who are still looking to figure out how to shave, some of them, then you are damaging competitive balance. The Marlins were expected to be a little better this year. Maybe more of a problem than they were in the last couple of years. So, yeah, I don't like the idea of screwing with competitive balance either. So, it's a brutally difficult decision. I'm a touch selfish, like you didn't know that already. I want to inch along and see if we can get more ball in. And if we can't, then we can't. And my life will go on as usual. One more thing before I wrap it up for today. And don't forget, tomorrow will be the Almost Daily Dave. That'll be a mini version. And I no doubt expect some more news on baseball. Hopefully no more NBA bubble screw-ups, whether they were screwed up in the bubble like Porzingis or screwed up out of the bubble like Sweet Lou. Regis Philbin who didn't like Regis Philbin? And the cool thing is, although while Regis was very busy and had a lot of success, the biggest success he ever had was late in his life. Probably the last 30 years of his life, starting with working with Kathy Lee Gifford, which was a wonderful pairing, and then going on with Kelly Ripa when Kathy Lee left. And then, of course, Millionaire was literally an overnight national sensation. People still say, is that your final answer? Even though Millionaire is still on, by the way, and on in different countries of the world. Everybody thinks of Regis as the host. And then the producers just drove that show right into the ground because they put it on every night of the damn week. But Regis Philbin was a very appealing, warm personality. I never met him, never worked with him. But I also never heard a bad word about the guy. I mean, there are people who can get a bad reputation in the industry, and I can hear about it from radio hosts that I know, people who have interviewed him. You can get a sense for who can be a good human and who can't be. And never, ever that I hear a bad word about Regis Philbin. His stuff with David Letterman and Regis's ability to laugh at himself really set him apart, because I've always admired any celebrity who can make fun of him or herself. That's why I've always liked Arnold Schwarzenegger. He can make fun of himself, and it's okay. That's a big trait when you're famous, because it shows at least a little bit of humility. Every single person who does this job for a living has an ego. You have to. You have to have an ego in order to grab a microphone or a headset or step on a stage, whether it's a live stage in Broadway or if it's a sound stage, and say, I'm acting or I'm speaking, look at me. That takes ego. Not the kind of ego that yells at somebody because their espresso is the wrong temperature. That's a different kind of ego. But Regis had a great performer's ego. And he could make fun of himself and be the butt of the joke and know that it was helping him. So it was smart. But he and David Letterman had a lot going. I put a post on my Facebook page earlier about that. So Regis Philbin, I just read an article now that I guess Kathy Lee Gifford had visited him someplace, I forgot, and that she sensed that that might have been the last visit they were ever going to have. Regis was 88. And I think we got the very most out of Regis, and he gave us the very most that he could possibly give, and he should be celebrated for that. It's interesting. When you have a long, long career like that, and you're successful and you're popular, and then you pass on, it's almost like Carl Reiner. You're sad, but at the same time, you have to celebrate their accomplishments and appreciate what they did. And if that person made you think or laugh or smile, then that's a successful life. And Regis Philbin, by all accounts, had an extraordinarily successful life. So that'll wrap it up for today's Nooner with Dave LaMont. Again, I'm at Dave Lamont1 on Twitter. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel where this program will wind up. So if you were late to the party, you can also catch it on Facebook. And my deepest apologies for not being able to get the link to work with Kelly Craig. I'm going to investigate that during the week, and we're going to try again Friday if Kelly's able and willing. And I'm sure there was something simple that maybe there's a button that I'm looking right at and I didn't hit. But whatever it is, my deepest apologies. I know we're going to get it right one day. Going to keep testing until we do. It's almost like the space. I feel like I'm NASA trying to get through without blowing up too many rockets. So thank you very much for watching. I'll see you the almost daily Dave tomorrow, and the longer version will be coming from Orlando again on Friday. So I'll have that really cool backdrop that I had that so many of you liked. That'll do it. I'll see everybody tomorrow on the Almost Daily Dave. Thank you very much for watching.